Welcome back to the video. In this section we're actually covering additional marking elements such as annotation and editing. This is covering more of the phrase elements we talked about in the first video, but in this case we're talking about things to modify the actual text in pages. First thing is computer code. This actually deals with if you're ever going to be physically putting code into pages that you want to display as code and not run it, you can show it with this. In this example, we're going to be doing the code, the KBD tag or keyboard tag, the sample, and the pre tag. Now, all of these things do the same thing visually, but they're processed a little differently depending on how you set it up. In the code tag, this is identifying a piece of computer-based code. In the example on the right, you can see that the word alert has been selected in the code element, and in this case it has different formatting than the rest of the text itself. That's because this is an inline phrase element. The KBD or the keyboard tag identifies user input from a keyboard, voice input, or other entry device. Now this is a little different than just the code tag, although you could use the code tag, but what this does is it allows you to show what a keyboard input would be if you were to actually take this and put it into something from either a form, a program, or something other that would take some keyboard input. Next is the samp tag or sample. This identifies text output from a computer program. So KBD allows the input, samp provides the output. In this case, my IP address is shown as inet 192.168.1.8. If you know what that is, 10 points to you. Next is the pre. The pre is probably one of the more common elements. This actually displays text exactly as it's written with additional predefined spacing around the section. Any HTML code in a pre tag is not processed by the browser. However, extra space is honored, not ignored. If you recall what we did before with the fact that the browser takes a lot of extra space and shrinks it down to 1, well, in the pre tag, it takes that same space and puts it into the output of the browser. We find another way to do that later with special characters. I'll get to that in just a moment. Alright, for annotations and editing, this is for visually modifying the text to show how it can be marked up. So we'll be covering the mark, the S, the sub, the U, the del, the int. First things first, the mark. This is for marking items for annotating. The default styling is usually highlighted in yellow. In this case, you can see that the items in yellow are, in fact, in yellow. The S or strike-through tag creates a strike-through for text that is no longer relevant or accurate. This is not to be used for text edits or text that has been marked for or has been deleted. We'll cover that in just a minute. The sup tag or the superscript tag is used for footnotes, numbers, mathematical notations, or musical notations to show that the text needs to be a little smaller and above the standard text. The exact opposite of that is the sub or subscript. Instead of putting the text above it, it puts the text below it about halfway down. This can be used in the same format such as footnote numbers, mathematical notations, or musical notations. Next we have the U. This used to stand for underline. As you can see, it actually does underline something, but the actual definition now is the unarticulated annotation. What this means is it identifies text to be annotated or marked text without using a text annotation. Basically, the item should be implied by context. Please don't overuse this, such as making something look like a link, because that is very confusing and very bad practice for any web developer or any user trying to click on the link. That is not a link. And lastly, we have the del and ints. What this means is the del is used to denote text that has been marked for deletion, and ints or insert is the exact opposite, used to denote text that has been inserted. In this case, you can see that the text never allow late work has been marked for deletion, and the insertion or the replacement text is allow late work under certain circumstances. Okay, that is a lot to cover for this section of the chapter. If you have any questions about this, please email me or hit me up on Twitter and I'll get back to you the best I can. In the next section, we'll be talking about special characters and the fun with that.